bunch on the same page, or no?
From there, I don't think there would be a designated road up to the mine.
No, it was just that little gravel road going up past the
Just a
Readers.
bulldozed road up there, but
There
it
we
was
may
big
have to,
enough for dump trucks.
Convert the whole thing?
So they hauled the ore down from the mine in dump trucks.
Didn't that go right past that farm barn house or whatever?
Yeah, where we lived up there,
Yeah.
exactly. It went right up the creek.
Did he
Remember
really?
the beaver dam down there on the creek itself?
And you run down there and watch the big fish go up and down the street.
Yeah,
Did you guys ever drive up there since?
up where?
Turk.
Yeah, oh, and not only that, we went up to the mine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they did have a crusher up there to crush the ore.
What I'm trying to get David on his phone to do is give us a topo map.
Yeah,
There we go.
oh, okay. Does it show a mine above?
It
Turk?
gives you the, and if you want to get it a little closer.
It was up that, I'm not gonna touch it because I know that changes it. Okay.
Okay, there's your Fruitland Valley Road. Now, it may bring more.
Does it show that creek?
Uh,
It shows a creek here.
There's a creek right there going out of Fruitland.
Okay, how about coming up this creek? What do you see up there? What's that called? Hart
That's,
Road?
I don't know how to read that.
Hart,
outside.
Hart Road.
That doesn't catch it for you.
That doesn't ring a bell.
And you can see how this comes down.
Yeah, let's
It comes
look
down.
up this road here. Well, probably too far now.
It should show, it should say, if you had an active mine, it should show something.
Well,
to
it's
that
probably
nature.
not active now.
Yeah, there's the creek coming right down through Fruitland.
Right, yeah. Well, it was up the creek. You followed the creek up to the mine.
is that metaphorically speaking?
That was,
Yeah, so it could have been, from Fruitland, which is right here. Here's the
Yeah.
creek goes in there.
follow
Could
the
easily
creek.
been there.
Just follow the creek a little ways up
Okay.
here. See what we find.
And we're
what's
back to
that?
Hurt Road.
Road.
Hurt Road, yeah.
It's probably in there somewhere,
Yeah.
depending on the.
Well, there's a road coming down through here that looks like this may be going to a mine.
Oh,
Here,
yeah.
see here?
See there, and there it ends. Right. Yeah.
So it's entirely possible what you're looking at.
That could be. Yeah, that was a silver mine, and the owner of the mine and Dad were the only people that worked there.
Oh, how about that?
And Dad was the one that drilled the holes for the dynamite, packed the dynamite in, and set it off in the silver mine.
Wow.
It's during World War II.
Yeah. Did they, was it electrical? They didn't, you still use fuses?
No, there's a fuse.
Was it a
You
fuse?
light it and run.
Why don't you guys keep that over there, just in case you want to look something else up?
I just backed it up.
Yeah, I think we found pretty
Yeah.
much the area.
That's what made them really curious, so they resolved that issue. Okay, Jody?
We're just waiting for Jody. She's in the bathroom.
Oh, okay.
And then it went into their dump truck, and then they hauled it down the hill to the.
Who had the money to front this operation where you got to buy the rails, you got to buy the ore cart, you got, and
I don't know. Jody knows his name. First name was John. Remember, Dad kind of rescued him once because he had a team of horses, and the team of horses ran away with him. That's what he used for his personal transportation, and I guess it skinned him up pretty good when he was trying to stop him, tipped his cart over a wagon, and so Dad tracked the horses down and brought them back.
yeah. But I still, it makes you wonder if they were that into it, where they acquired.
Yeah, well, he had to have a stake to put up that crusher
Yeah,
and the equipment
yeah.
and a dump truck to
I
haul
don't
it.
imagine that you could get a rock crusher that easily without sending back east.
It wasn't a great big thing.
I mean, it wouldn't have
for
to
a
be
little
much.
one hole mine.
But we're talking, what, 1920s, 1918, 19, he was 90, born in 96.
I don't, well, Dad was, but he wasn't there that long. I mean, we were there during World War II.
Oh, so it was in the 40s.
Yeah.
Could have been another abandoned mine that had the rails and everything.
Jody
that
can probably
disappeared.
give you an exact date when she gets here as to when we were there and
Yeah.
when we left.
But I thought during World War II that we were up at Spokane. He was
Oh,
working
we were
at
all over the
Smoky.
place during World War II. You're
Yeah.
talking about what, 41 to 45, 4-year span.
Having been in 1941, I knew all about that.
I know. We're leaving you out of that part. You have no responsibility.
Did that?
You guys are 1930 models.
Let Jody tell the dynamite story and John, because I have a different version. Maybe it was a different time.
Could have been. Yeah.
But you know, if Mom had gray hair, you know what?
Well, if she didn't have it then, by the time we got through with her, she had gray
Well,
hair.
And this is where we were living in the post office in Turk, next to the dance
I
hall,
heard
which
that,
was
yeah.
closed up.
Yeah.
And the horse come in smelling the bacon,
was
fell through the floor,
Yeah.
and there that horse was with his legs sticking through the floor of our kitchen.
Wasn't that the place where Mother was a little concerned about the mountain lions and all that kind of crap?
Well, there's another story. Jody isn't here, so I'll tell it. Mom did not know how to drive something, really. But we had that old Buick.
Yeah.
And what we did was, Mom wanted to move a rock, a big rock that was in front of the house, the post office. She wanted it out of there. It was in the way, she thought. And there was a drill hole right through it. So what we did, we stuck a chain through the drill hole, but it wasn't long enough to go all the way around and fasten. So Jody was hanging on to the loose end that had already been through the hole, and Mom got in the car and was going to back it up. But she went ahead and pulled Jody's finger in the hole with the chain and really skinned it up. I don't know if she still got scars or not, but it really skinned her finger
man.
up.
Why not just pull the chain out far enough to tie a half knot in it and stick a stick in it and get away from it? And knowing that Mother didn't know how to drive, I would have been 50 feet away.
Where's my mom?
Coming. He's coming.
She didn't fall in, did she?
I had so many screeches.
So how's your business going?
That's good. We're doing some different things.
Mm-hmm.
So we do.
What about if we start when I remember when you guys are babies?
Not bad. I would like to know who
Can
my
you,
family reads.
can you remember when I was a baby?
That's
Yeah.
pretty well spread out.
Can you really?
Yeah.
You were only 4 years old.
I can remember before you were a baby,
Really?
before you were before you were visible baby.
Really? You have an
Yes.
excellent memory.
No, so I can't remember. I couldn't remember the little teeny town that had the, where John was 2 miles, lived 2 miles.
Oh, we found that.
Oh, what's the name of it?
Colton?
Pardon?
Colton?
Carlton.
Carlton,
Right.
Oklahoma.
Yep. Okay. We're going to start with. Okay.
They're going to have to leave in 1 hour.
1 hour. Okay. Okay. I can remember. Well, first of all, let's
start where you were born. Wenatchee, Washington,
yeah. Wenatchee, Washington.
January 1st, child born in Wenatchee, Washington in 1929.
Uh-huh. And it was New Year's Day. And Daddy went down to find the doctor and the Montgomery Ward store was burning down. Then Doctor was playing poker, and he was pretty well soused or drunk, and came up, and I understand Mother kicked his glasses off, and so then later Daddy bought us long scissors at the fire sale from Montgomery Ward store, and I learned to cut the boy's hair and Dad's hair with that long scissors, and it should be around here somewhere.
That's quite a bit later, wasn't it?
Yes, not right there.
Now, not too long after you were born, they went back to South Dakota.
Well, but don't forget that Grandpa Hunter passed away
Well, that was in 1930,
in June. Wasn't
Yep.
it June?
when you were a
Alright.
year and a half old.
Okay, June, and I don't remember the I don't remember the funeral.
We're
I
not
have
expecting you to remember at a year and a half old, Jody.
But going back there, and I don't know what kind of a car,
What?
probably a Buick or something. But anyway,
Oh yeah, it's getting
Aunt
older.
Joe said that Mother was very, very jealous of Father. Here he is, 6'3" cowboy, and so wore this. I remember his hat, one of those tall cowboy hats, and he had
Cuffs.
cuffs.
Leather
They call them
cuffs.
cuffs
Yep.
to protect them when they're roping, that it doesn't come across there. I remember that, and I remember that we they rented the Cutcomb place, and I remember that it really rained one time, and Daddy came in, and there was two little frogs in the brim of his hat when he dumped the water off. And then Mother probably was pregnant with Irene.
And she was born 2 years and 1 month after you were born.
Yep. And so Mother was probably pregnant when they went back there. Probably when Grandpa Hunter passed away, it reminded her that she needed to go back and see her folks after being away for about probably 5 years, 4
Yeah,
years,
long
something like
time.
that. So anyway, then Irene was born. Now, I do not remember Irene being born. I don't remember that.
That's understandable.
But then, I remember before Lawrence was born that we went to an Indian powwow, and there's a picture of it, but I remember being there, and there was Irene and myself and Mother and Grandma and Mrs. Holcomb, or Holcomb, and they I remember Daddy, the guys, some of the Indian guys or something, they had found a land turtle and set it in the back of this pickup back then. And I remember Daddy picking up Irene, because she was just a toddler, and standing her on top of that turtle. And so I also remember at this powwow the Indians dancing around, but I also remember the chiefs dancing around, walking around talking to people. And I thought that his feather dress coming down and trailing on the floor grew out of him. So, but Mother talked about in her earlier days at an Indian powwow where they were having an Indian ceremony, and they were all invited, and so the young men Indians got up and danced around, then they'd go over and grab a girl's hand and get her to dance with them. And so this one Indian that they were friends with, like, come over and grab Mother's hands, and she was probably about 16, 17, and danced around, and then after it was over, they found out that was an engagement party, and
Oops.
Grandpa's eyebrows went to the top of his head, and he went over and had to talk turkey with that chief to get Mother unpromised to the Indian book.
Well, let's forward now.
Okay.
Next, I was born
You were born.
in South Dakota in 1932. Then they went back to Washington State.
No, wait. Don't you want to know anything about you?
No, I was just born. That was
No,
it.
you weren't born.
I was.
You were born in the.
Crawl out from under the rock.
Now we find
How
out I
much
was
time do we
hatched.
have? I'll go fast. Okay, Lauren,
That's a revelation.
Aunt Jo
You weren't
was
born.
Aunt Jo was watching us in our sod house. We had moved to a sod house by that time, and there's a lot more. But anyway, Aunt Jo took us to see Mother with baby Lawrence, and he had coal black hair. He had coal black hair. Leaning on this pillow beside Mother, he had coal black hair.
Well, no.
Well, it doesn't
So-
now.
Did you switch kids somewhere along the way?
Obviously.
So that, but
What color were
anyway,
his eyes?
pardon?
What color were his eyes with coal black
He was
hair?
asleep,
Oh,
but he had blue eyes when they brought him home. But he still had black hair. But anyway, Irene and I crawled up on the end of the bed, and in comes the nurse and says, "Get your feet off the sheets."
Well, I know what happened to my hair.
What?
Well, I was told that when I was about 1 year old, Mom, you, and Irene were in this sod cabin when a severe thunderstorm came up and took the roof off, and she and us kids were crawled under the kitchen table to get away from all the hail coming down. That's when my hair turned white.
That probably did. Because they have some terrific storms back then. But then, when you were about a year and a half old, why, I think that they decided they better come back to Washington. And so then,
whereabouts?
Wenatchee.
Wenatchee.
Go back to Wenatchee.
That's where by then Grandma had moved, and Aunt May and Aunt Eva. But anyway, why I remember when John was born. Why I remember this, and this is on that other one that we did at your place about. Irene and I were in the mountains. Where you were, I imagine Grandma was taking care of you, because I don't remember you, but that was
I
this
was
cabin.
abandoned.
Elmer's cabin, and then he had another back room on it, and there was no door from the cabin there. You had to go out and around and go in, and it had one window. And Irene and I were laying below that window. That's where our bed was. Daddy was sleeping inside, and Irene was right under there, and she woke up screaming and woke me up, and here's a mountain lion trying to get in the window, and she still remembers his very, very bad dress to this day. And so then Daddy heard us screaming, so he come running around, and then of course that scared that off. But anyway, then with Mike, with John, I can't tell that one.
Where was Mike born?
Mike was born in Wenatchee.
Okay.
and he was kept on top of a chest of drawers in a suitcase. That was his bed. So then when
Wouldn't
Mike,
fit one down.
when Mike was about 8 months old, August, September, October, November, we got back there after February, so we must have got back there about end of February or March or something, because Irene hadn't had a birthday cake.
You look at Brother Mike as if he should know something about this. I
Pardon?
remember just
Anyway, we got back to Grandma and Grandpa's, and you were about probably, what would you guys count faster on your fingers, 8 months old. And so then we stayed back there, and Grandma and Grandpa were selling the farm because the boys were all gone, everybody was gone. And so they went up to, they bought a house in Rapid City, and then we went from their farm up to Rapid City, and Daddy did some work for Grandpa fixing it up. And I remember cleaning out the cistern that when they had the water truck come along and fill that, and that's how Agnes, our Aunt Agnes, met Uncle Lawrence, as he drove that truck a couple of times. But anyway, Daddy was down scrubbing that all out, and we were peering down the hole. I remember Irene know that. So then we headed back again. And when we headed back, why, it was time for Paul to be born.
And that was in,
That was in Spokane.
right.
But we went to Garden Springs Camp because it was empty. What do you call them?
people that run the camp.
CC camp.
Oh, yeah, it was
kids
the old
or something
CCC
like that.
camp.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it
And
didn't
so
have anybody in there.
it was empty. There was Mr. Craigie was the caretaker, and so Daddy went to the county agent, commissioner, and asked if we could live in one of those because it was hard times. My gosh,
Well, I guess so.
you know, it was the Great Depression. Not the depression they think they just had. But anyway, so then we lived in first a tent with a wood side when Paul was born. And Mother stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. That was what they did, I guess, back then. And so then they decided if we were going to stay there, there's no sense in paying Mr. Craigie to be there. So they told us to just stay there. We didn't get any pay, we just stayed. And we lived in the cookhouse.
Yeah, it was a nice place.
Yeah, yeah.
How old were you then?
Pardon?
How old were you then? Because now you're looking at Irene, Lawrence, and Mike, and
Well,
Paul.
And don't forget John. And,
Paul was just born.
Yeah, and John. Okay, you're
Yeah,
telling
John.
me at some point that you're packing all of these kids on your right hip. Okay, and Mother's in the hospital for 2 times every time one of these kids are born, right?
She didn't pack me because she couldn't catch me.
Don't you bet on that.
Not in Garden Springs Camp. That's when I went to first grade.
Yeah, and I was in the 3rd and 4th.
How old did I get in Garden Springs Camp?
You were a toddler before we left. And then we
When
went,
did I fall off the double bank onto the steel chair?
When you were very small.
yes,
you didn't
that
fall.
was
Still
a
got that
double,
scar.
that was a double bunk. You fell off a double bunk.
Onto a
But-
corner of a steel chair. And I
Right.
still got the scar.
You're kidding me.
Well,
Well, it's right there.
Well, I got mine from rolling out of the bed. I was on the lower floor.
So I was a higher altitude.
Yeah,
you weren't even born when
no,
that happened
but
to
my
you.
turn came after I was born.
So
But
then,
anyway,
There's a pattern here.
You probably fell off with a lot more than that.
so we
you
left
lucky.
Garden Springs Camp. Where'd we go?
we went up to where Daddy was working on John Slate's mine.
All right, that's when we went up to Turk.
and took the two goats, Billy and Bobby, and who was the stupid goat that jumped off over the roof and hung himself?
We weren't living in Turk at that time. We were living
No.
up on the mountain.
We lived in the mining cook shack, I think.
Yeah.
Because John Slate didn't have anybody but Daddy working for
I
him.
know he did. And Dad did the dynamiting.
Yeah. And we rode the cart back and forth.
Yeah,
out
and
to
we
the-
rode the school bus down to Fruitland.
Oh, that was when we lived in Turk.
In Turk, yeah.
The school bus never came that high.
Just-
And we never walked that far down. There was mountain lions.
Well, up to Turk is where the school bus came, and we lived in the post office.
We lived in post office, and then we moved up the hill to the hotel.
Yeah,
And Daddy still worked for John Slade.
right,
He worked for him for a couple of years.
yes.
Okay, so then, what the dickens did we do? Oh, I remember, okay, from being up there, then we, and I was about 12, why Mother decided we ought to move.
Right.
So we went down, and it was Pete Eifert's place where they decided to pick prunes. Now, whether Daddy decided to pick prunes or not, somebody decided that prune picking with these extra kids would be a good idea.
One of them work.
So we went down there.
Where was this you went down there where?
We went down there before you were born.
But where is there? Where did you go?
Okay, you know,
What part of what state?
Oregon.
You went to Oregon.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a senior moment, guys.
Was this about the same time we went clear over almost to the coast of Oregon where we lived there, and Dad took care of the chicken farm?
That is when, I don't remember that.
You don't
That-
remember that?
I do remember
Oh, okay,
that.
because
Very
I was
much.
sicker than a dog there.
Well, that's part of your problem,
I know that's about it.
Oh,
right there.
we found it.
That's one part of it.
Was that before or after we camped overnight down by the river in a campground with some other people? And during the night it rained and the flood come up and the river come up, and if we didn't get out of there,
That was the same place. Well, we stayed in this motel.
'cause I remember we
We
were all,
crawled out the window.
we weren't in a hotel, we were camped in that trailer in the car.
A motel. We had a motel and the trailer. We had to push the trailer up behind the
That's
motel
right,
to get
because
out of
that
there.
car wouldn't pull it up that
No.
hill, so it had all of us kids that could push behind that thing, pushing while Dad had it in low gear as fast as it go, and we finally made it.
Okay.
And the river was coming, we'd have been underwater otherwise.
And then after that is when we went up there to the chicken farm.
Okay, that's a good idea. Up on flat land away from the river.
No, that was on the edge of Portland or somewhere.
Yeah, I know.
But it was a creek, and then suddenly it was a river.
So then we left the chicken farm and we ended up in Pocatello.
We're getting close to getting
Getting
you
close.
born there.
Getting close.
Uh, well, I don't know, did we have you? I don't remember whether you had you when, I don't think we had you at that chicken farm.
You
No.
were picking potatoes when you had me.
Yeah.
Yeah, before. Yeah.
That's right, because
Yeah.
there was a reason for
So
that.
that was it. We were also at Spokane at one time. But anyway, we.
You went from Oregon to Pocatello, Idaho.
And many places in between.
I'll bet. Yeah.
Well, we'll get back to Peter. I think you're right about that. See, and Daddy got a job with Gumerson. I don't remember his first name. on the farm, taking care of milking the cows and doing all the farm work. And then he had a house with a potato cellar.
This was down here near Declo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Declo was the closest little bitty store. And you were in the first grade. Maybe not the first year we were there, but maybe on the second year.
No, I was probably second or third then.
No.
Hey, I started first grade when Paul was born.
If you're talking about going to school up at Turk, that was a long time before.
No. When did you have that airplane? The teacher made that.
First grade.
First grade. And
Yep.
that was in Spokane.
Yes. And that was when we were in Garden Springs camp. We walked, you remember? We walked down and we walked along the ridge above the highway until we came and crossed over to get to the school.
Yeah.
I remember when I was walking
Big
along,
pine tree that,
I walking along looking up like this, just keep going, and all of a sudden you hollered behind me, and I looked back, and she was hollering because there was a great big rattlesnake rock
yeah.
wound up in the path, and I just walked over.
It was right by the big pine tree. But you started it because Christina.
You started it.
No, you started there because Irene and I went first by ourselves, and
I started
went
first grade there,
Because
yeah.
I was in the 3rd and 4th grade there, Miss Mealy and Mrs. Smith.
Okay, well, I don't know, I don't
So-
remember all the details.
Yeah, but
About
anyway,
anything.
we got to get Peter born here. So
Okay.
Daddy gets a job at Gummerson's, and we live in a little house he has with a big potato cellar right behind there. And then there's some people here, and I've forgotten their name, but the girl's name was Benetta.
I remember across the road, there was a woman over there, and Mom always complained about her laying around doing nothing and eating these cherry chocolate candies.
I don't remember that.
Well, I do, because I didn't know what a cherry chocolate candy was.
But anyway, there was a farm right next to us, and there was a big row of trees there. So anyway, while we stayed there, I don't know whether we stayed there 2 years or not.
Oh, I don't think it was that long. That's where John fell out of the tree on the fence.
But we went there after we picked the potatoes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we picked potatoes a lot, even up in Payette.
oh yeah. But we were picking potatoes. And then Daddy got this job for this Mr. Gummerson. And we stayed in the house. And we had a Christmas there. I remember.
I do too.
You remember Mother getting that tumbleweed, and then we tied little.
Right, we decorated, that was our Christmas tree.
Yeah, that was our Christmas tree.
I remember Halloween, and we'd make these rattle things to scare people. We'd take an old wooden spool and have a cranker, line crank around it with an axle on it, a wire, and put it up against the wind and pull that, because we had cut notches in it.
Yeah.
And then just rattle that window something awful.
But anyway, this was okay. While Mother was gone to have Peter, she left May the, I think it was 23rd. I don't know. No, that was April.
How do you recall how she was feeling when she left?
Oh, she was always having appendicitis, like her sister Marie.
Okay,
Always,
she was always feeling in pain.
always feeling she was going to have a burst appendix, like Sister Marie, and die. Miss Sister Marie was working for some professional people, and she had a burst appendix and probably no phone or anything.
Yeah.
But anyway, laid there on the floor till they came home, and they rushed her to the hospital, but it was too late. It had burst, and she died the next day.
Uh-huh.
So that really hit Mother.
So how long was Mom in the hospital before Peter was born?
I don't think she was very long.
Okay.
It was. I remember it was
So
May.
it was just probably a few days.
Should I or shouldn't
Maybe.
I?
But the long time occurred after he was born.
Yeah, then,
Yeah.
yeah, but,
Leave it at-
yeah.
Why was I cesarean?
Well, they took her appendix and you at the same time.
But why did they take me cesarean?
Well,
Because she did what?
She didn't do anything excepting probably they thought that trying to push you out you weighed 8 pounds and something and were a month too early would rupture the appendix worse. It wasn't ruptured.
It wasn't ruptured at the time.
No.
Was she feeling that she had an appendicitis, that she had appendicitis? This is what I'm trying to straighten out in my life.
Mother felt she had an appendicitis
Attack.
ever since before Lawrence was born. When Marie died, she immediately...
With every child, she felt that she had an appendix that was going to burst.
Yes, she always felt that way. So maybe
So don't feel like you're the only one.
That's what I was going to say. I absolve myself from any responsibility in this case.
No.
We'll discuss that later at the trial.
That's right. I now have the evidence that I need.
But no.
So they took me and the appendix out at the same time.
Well, first of all,
Didn't know which one to throw
yes, they
away.
did. They took you and the appendix out at the same time. And you were a month early.
Yeah, that's what I told
Because Mother said that you didn't have any eyelashes
her. Yeah.
and your little fingers were not quite grown out where they should be.
I mean,
So-
that's nothing. That month cost me the difference between my height and his height. That month, I could have been as big as this guy right here if they had just left me to hell alone.
Well, evidently Dr. Rochford.
Eisenberg.
No, Dr. Robert L. Rochford. Doctor, it's like a Jewish name.
Dr. Eisenberg delivered me.
Eisenberg?
Eisenberg.
Berg or Howard?
No, Eisenberg.
Eisenberg. All right.
I've been wanting to look him up, or his grandchildren, or whatever's my age.
Well, anyway, then, of course, after the
How
doctor sewed her up,
Yeah, go ahead.
and the next morning, according to Mother, the nurse came in and said, "Oh, we've got to set you up." And she said, "No, I don't think I'm supposed to set up. I've had surgery." And she says, "Oh no, you got to get up." Sets Mother up and pops all those stitches open. So then they decide they have a problem. They have a lady that gets infection in that, and they have a newborn baby that needs attention. So they have at least one volunteer lady that comes and takes care of newborn babies. And she came and got Peter and took Peter home with her and kept him and fed him, and he looked good when we picked him up, when we were ready to go.
The thing about it was, you said that she took care of newborn babies.
Yes.
This is where the switch was made.
You look too much like your maternal grandfather to have any switch.
I'm disclaiming that I needed to go with somebody that had more money.
She had a brick house, wasn't that?
Yes, why couldn't I stay? What's wrong with me? Did I look more like the appendix than a person?
Okay, we got him born, we got Mom healed up, now
Well-
we're getting ready to go somewhere.
Yes, and you paid for me with what?
Wait a minute. We haven't got her out of there. We got Irene saving Mike's life.
Before I got out of the hospital, or before they brought me home?
Yeah,
You betcha.
sure.
You betcha.
What the hell was wrong with you?
Well, anyway,
You're 5 years older
She-
than I am. You ought to know this
What's
stuff.
still
This-
wrong with me?
this lady, now John and I went and got your birth certificate, but this lady took you to church and had you baptized. Peter Patrick
Peter
Henry.
Patrick Harry Hunter.
Peter Patrick Henry Harry Hunter.
It's on the birth certificate.
See, she-
Peter Patrick Harry Hunter.
Is that what it is?
No Henry.
Well,
No, Henry.
well, I
And
think.
you guys started calling me Henry.
Well, I think she named you, was going to
That
name
was the
you
one they
Patrick
swapped her
Henry.
with.
I'm telling you, I have a legal case.
But anyway, so then we, but Mother was there for a month to get over this infection, and the nurses and the sister ladies were praying for her all the time.
If
And
you'd
it was,
have been ripped open and you had an appendix that had ruptured or in the process of taking it out, and you had an infection inside your intestines there and in your gut, and they had to swab the thing out. They know they had to put antibiotics in there. They didn't even have good antibiotics.
I know.
They didn't develop a good penicillin until the middle of World War II.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it took
I don't
her-
blame her for being in there for a month.
Well,
And the gal was taking care of Pete, was praying every day that she would get good, get well, and she could bring him back.
They were down there in front of the hospital praying, please.
He's probably giving her a rough
Well-
time.
Mother would go out of her head. They put bars on her window to
Yeah.
keep her inside of it. And but then Daddy took us in the truck. We had a truck at that
Yeah.
time, and
It wasn't
with a
ours.
canvas cover.
It wasn't ours, it belonged to Gummers.
Was it his? It had a canvas cover.
He went,
I'm
in his,
glad you remembered that, because see, I'm not mechanically minded.
went into his
Where did
potato
you
shed.
steal?
Pardon?
You went
Where did
into
you
his
steal?
potato shed.
Did
In
what?
the truck. You went.
We loaded up all the kids
Dad
because
borrowed the truck
guess who?
to take us down to Pocatello to visit Mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when we come back, it was night, dark,
Yeah.
and
So
We-
the kids were asleep.
John, Mike were in the back, laying down. This truck had sides, but it had no tailgate. That was just open back there. We
But it
were up
had a
there
canvas
towards the
cover
front
over
in
it.
the cab, trying to sleep while we bounced along the road. And of course, him being bigger than us, he bounced more, so he was going to the back.
Well, and I was holding Paul because he was 2.5.
Yeah.
And so Mike got clear back to the edge. And then Irene, I say that Mike's guardian angel woke her up or communicated, that kid is too darn close to the back. He's going to fall out. So she woke up and grabbed you by your shirt and dragged you back up with the other
And
two
I
kids.
slept through the whole thing.
And he had his only chance to escape, and really muffed it.
So anyway, then when Mother was considered well enough, why then Daddy borrowed Gummis's car, a wine Studebaker, I think, with the suicide back doors, and Paul and I, and that left Irene taking care of the other kids. Went and got her, and then we stopped and got the baby, you, and headed home, and then and you were in a basket in the back seat with Mother. For some reason, she must have touched or was going to do something with the door handle, and the suicide door went like that. And it's a good thing Daddy wasn't tearing down the road because it was jammed open, and so he worked on it for a while to get it jammed back shut. But it wasn't perfect like
Yeah.
it was when he borrowed the car from his boss. Then we got back, and then of course, knowing Mother, she wanted to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was there. What aggravated it was that he had hired a hired man that had, I don't know, I saw about 3 or 4 kids, but 2 of them were 13, 14 years old, and so he let them put a bed to sleep in the milk house where the separator was, where Daddy had to separate the milk. Well, when Mother learned that there was 2 teenage girls in there, Mother being a very jealous person, said, I think we need to move. And so we packed.
Before you did that, though, you had to pay for my birth. How did you do that?
Had to pay.
I can tell you how that all was resolved.
How was it? Because
Okay.
I've always been told one thing.
Okay, I can tell you how it
Had
was
to
all
pay for
resolved.
what, Rose?
How any payment was resolved over our rent or whatever and his doctor bill, because one night, in the middle of the night, long after dark, this was all planned ahead of time. We left the lights on in the house.
There.
We had that trailer that Dad had built undercover in the potato cellar, hooked onto the car. Everything we owned was loaded into it, and down the road we went.
And headed for Oregon.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Say
We split.
they're still looking for you to pay.
The story I heard that you had about 6 or 8 or 10 100-pound sacks of potatoes out of that potato cellar, and that's what you paid for my birth with.
I have no idea.
Was that a big lie?
Maybe
Who
Daddy
told you
did.
that?
One of my siblings,
Well, it wasn't me.
or it could have been my own mother.
Well, now that's possible.
That is very possible.
I think
because
she
I
wanted to
never
make
heard
it
of
right that I was actually legal.
I don't believe it myself.
It may not be true, but as I understood it, there was a potato exchange for a kid.
Well, gee, don't feel bad. Dad was
What?
going to buy a really nice coat for a sack of potatoes. But the guy said, no, I think we better leave the coat with the mother. It's still nursing. No,
Really
Daddy was
overpayment.
a smart person,
Yeah.
but Daddy also had a smart wife making plans
Always making plans. Okay.
for all of us.
So anyway, then I can put that to rest. There was no potatoes. We just split in the middle of the night like we normally did.
Yeah.
It just passe. Everybody knew what the operation was. Everybody knew their position, where you're going to sit either in a trailer or in the vehicle.
Absolutely.
And we all hopped in at a certain pre-designated time,
Yep.
and we left.
Where did we go?
Maybe they hadn't planned that.
Well, they didn't let anybody know there.
Oh, no.
Well, okay, it was coming on towards winter time, so we sure wouldn't have headed back for South Dakota.
No, that wasn't the time we went to Minnesota because we were living
It
up in
might have been,
Spokane.
it might have been the time we went up there and then, when it was flooding the motel and then up to the chicken farm.
Well, that could be. And then
But then remember,
it was getting along towards the end of World War II then.
But you didn't, what, I don't know.
He was born in 41.
So I don't want to interrupt here, but no, it has nothing to do with the time. But you know that when we post this on YouTube, all of the folks that you ran out on,
They're gonna know where
80
we're at.
years ago, they're going to come back and they're going to want more than a sack of potatoes. I just want you to know.
It's going to be children and grandchildren looking for it.
Yeah.
Don't put the address on.
Okay, so then we ended up in Spokane eventually after Oregon. We
Yeah.
ended up in Spokane where I went to about, what, 3rd or 4th grade, I don't know.
you're skipping the second
Okay,
grade.
but it was at the end of World War II. It probably went on 44, 45. And because
I
we
know
lived,
that I was in the 5th grade.
okay, we lived out there on the prairie in that house. And the school bus took to school. I remember the school bus went right by Geiger Field, military field there in Spokane.
Wait a minute. We were at Spokane also in a little white house in sort of a gully.
This is out on the prairie, I'm thinking of when
Oh.
and that's where we left from.
And went to Minnesota.
Exactly.
Okay, but before that,
You may have memories of the two things that I remember. Dad worked at a winger factory, and Dad worked at a aluminum wheel smeltering factory, or whatever that is. Did
Oh,
either
that
one-
was,
that was in Spokane.
that was in
Was it about
Spokane.
that time?
But,
No,
no,
that was later.
Different
I
time.
was
Okay.
older.
That was later.
Okay.
That's when we came back from Minnesota. I don't know. No, it wasn't when we came back from Minnesota. Anyway,
I mean, those are just the two
yeah.
instances that I remember.
Well,
was
kind of
stuck
in between there.
But
We moved
okay,
all the time.
yeah, that was, okay, what is the, where the town that's a satellite to Spokane is where we live. With the aluminum factory,
Oh,
and then also Daddy worked for Armours, making the sausages for the soldiers.
Yeah, but this is, like you guys were saying, this is after you went back east. You
No.
came back at the same
well,
time?
no,
No,
no.
No.
When we went back east, we left from a little house up on the prairie where we went to school up there,
but
and I can tell you a story about that.
we also lived in Van Leuven's before we lived in
Oh,
that
yeah.
little house.
Oh, yeah.
Van Leuven's. Up there, when Daddy was working in the aluminum factory, then, and we lived in Bertha Roper's house.
And that's where you and
And-
I had our tonsils out.
That's right.
That's right.
I was 16 and you were 12.
That's right.
And what town were you in?
Spokane.
Still in
Right.
Spokane?
Well,
Okay.
Or a suburb of Spokane.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
But also before that, we were in Wenatchee, and Daddy moved us up to the Green filling station.
Yes, that's when Dad worked at Geiger Field.
Yeah. And when we went over to the Occident School,
Yeah, but
Right.
then from the filling station where Grandma came to see us,
yeah,
we went out to a house on the prairie, up higher on the plateau. Because remember, this road
Well-
that came by the service station was called Indian Valley Road, Indian Hills Road, and it went from down Spokane down on the river, and then you up on the hill to where Geiger Field is up there.
and there was the deep dark canyon there,
Yeah.
what we walked over to. But from the Green filling station, we went to Bertha Roper's house.
Okay.
Because Mother wanted to live somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
The Green filling station was fine. And then from there, we went, Daddy found Van Leuven's place.
Now, was that where we moved from to go back to Minnesota?
No, we moved from the little house you're talking about on the prairie. And from Van Leuven's house, when Mother went to the hospital, then we moved over to the little house on the prairie.
Okay,
And where, you know,
but it was all around Spokane.
Okay,
yeah.
how old was I then?
And,
How old was I when you're talking
4.
about this now? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
no, you were either 3.5 or 4.
Okay. Because at some point here, we reached a place where we were living when Mother was sick.
When the
Yeah.
doctor sent her to the
Smile, honey.
hospital.
You know, she was sick and she was in the back room and everybody else was eating dinner. And she had just a candle in the room.
Oh, that's Van Leuven's.
Was that Van Leuven's?
And you dropped the candle?
I pushed it over and it went down behind the
Yeah.
wall.
That's where John and I,
He
And we set the place on
started the house
fire.
on
This,
fire.
well, they
this
weren't the
is,
only ones. John and I, because Dad used to work in the mine and he used carbide lamp.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so John and I found this is on Van Leuven's place. Remember the barn with the hay and straw in it?
yeah.
John
Van
and I
Leuven's
would
farm.
take a pop bottle and we'd put the carbide in there and a little water, and then we put the cap back on it. We'd punch the little hole in the cap.
Uh-huh.
And of course, you know what happens
Yeah.
there. And then we'd light it. We were out in the barn doing this.
So
But we didn't burn the house down like you did almost.
Hey,
we superseded you guys way beyond in what we did.
But this is where you
Well,
got
we
it.
found some carbide out there. We
Did
just
you?
take a bottle, put a little water on it, screw the thing, bury it, and then watch it go boom.
Oh, you bury it,
Yeah.
okay.
well, wait a minute. When we were up at Yakima, Remember what we used to do at the river? Same thing, carbide in here and put some rocks in on top of that.
But
Then
we were fishing at that
yeah,
time.
we were fishing, and you drop it in, because we could see the fish down there. We didn't have a fishing pole. Drop the thing in the water, let it go down, and just wait and wait and wait, and all of a sudden, bam! And all of these the flotation devices and the fish would blow, and up they come. And we got them. Hey, we got a history here, fellas. I think we passed it on to these yahoos over here.
Well, okay, we're up on the house on the prairie now, and we get ready to move back to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Well, John and I, you know, that house next to us was owned by somebody that didn't live there, but they had a lot of stuff in there. Well, we found a box of 30-06 shells in there, bullets. And John and I would take them and get a pliers and we'd pull a bullet out and we'd dump the powder into a bottle, a container, like a pint jar. And by the time we emptied that whole 20 shells of 30-06, we had a lot of black powder in there. But guess where it went with us? To Minnesota.
You're kidding. Well, but see,
No, we carried all that powder that was in those shells in a pint jar in the trailer.
did Daddy know about that?
Heck no, he wouldn't know about that.
Well, you remember that then when Mother got out of the hospital, she wanted to go back and see her mother. And so that's how come we then packed up everything, sold my calf.
That was at Van Leuven's?
Pardon?
Van Leuven's? Sold your calf?
That I got when we lived at Bertha Roper's.
Oh, then you had the calf.
Yeah.
And then you sold that calf, it was all packed up, and you went back east.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But Aunt Jo and Raleigh came along, and so when Mother said that they were going back to Minnesota to see Grandma, why they said, well, gee, we might as well go too. So anyway, they left Richard with you guys, and I don't know, I don't think they had Ann yet, did they? Maybe they did have Ann. But anyway, Mother and Peter and myself, and probably Ann, because she was, Richard was, what, 12 years older? 12 years older? He was 12 when she was 6 and caused him awful troubles.
Well, we didn't caravan back to Minnesota, did we?
Pardon?
We didn't go with them as a caravan to Minnesota, did we?
No, you followed us after you sold my calf, sold everything.
Don't blame it on me now.
I think she was
Well,
looking straight at
you
you,
would
Doris.
be the next one oldest. Irene stayed. She's the next oldest under Daddy. You're all guilty. So, anyway.
When was the time that it was was that in the winter time or in the summertime?
No, that was in the spring,
Or in the
about
spring?
March.
At some point in the winter time, we need to deal with the place that had the big farmhouse here, and I was with this must have been a relative. I was with a relative, and that's where you had the cistern.
What sister?
The cistern.
That
for
would have
water.
been on Van Leuven's place,
Could have
wouldn't it?
been.
Say it again?
Where Aunt Jo and Mom took care of you.
Yeah, was it Aunt Jo? I knew that Mother had my hands, but I didn't know who had my feet, so it had to be Aunt Jo. It had to be Aunt Jo. I don't think you were there.
I never did that to you.
I know, but you did a lot of
That
other things,
wasn't-
but you didn't do that.
You have accused me, and that is not so. That was at Van Leuven's.
This guy just came up with it. It was Aunt Jo that did this. And what was being done was to give me the cure from crapping my pants.
That's
Okay?
right.
And believe me, I must have puckered. I didn't potty for 3 or 4 months, I'll tell you that. But that's just the way it went down. But what happened, and this needs to be explained, Mother had my hands Aunt Joe had my feet, and they took the lid off the cistern.
No,
This-
it didn't have a lid. It was
The
an
hell it-
open hole.
No, I was there. I was over it.
Well,
I know.
I was there too.
It was a square hole with a cover on it, and the hole was off. If you were there, then you may be involved. So just
Yeah.
back away. Okay.
Never.
So anyway,
wouldn't do that to
I
you.
was held over this cistern and threatened with being in this blue-green ice and water because you guys had just busted the ice in that cistern to get some water in the bucket to take in the house. Threatened me that if I didn't, it's a wonder I just didn't, my bowels didn't burst right there in that cistern. I don't know why I didn't think to do that, but I had a little different thing in my mind at that time. But anyway, threatened to drop me in that damn hole if I didn't stop crapping my britches. And I don't know how, I must have been, what, 5 years old or 6 years old?
3.5 or 4.
I'm telling you, and I swear to God, I crapped my britches until I was 12 and a half. That was just in retribution, I think. I don't know.
Well, I think I beat you on that.
Besides that, there was a big hole. It must have been about 6 or 8 feet deep, and it was about that far across, as big as this table, up there too. What it was for, I don't know. But you must have been talking about the well.
I was talking about the cistern, the water that we used for the house.
Yeah, but a cistern means that it's brought in by truck, and there was never any water brought by truck.
This was in the middle of the winter, and that was the cistern, and it had a wooden
A
cover.
cistern can be filled from a windmill.
Well, that's
Yeah.
true.
And they had one of those on. And that was the same time that because of this big building up on the hill, the barn was up on the hill away
The
from the
barn
house.
was at the house, and then the barn was over here.
Yes, and
I
the
mean,
cistern-
okay, to you, the house and the barn over here.
No, the house was here, the cistern was here, and the barn was here.
Okay, that's
Okay.
Van Leuven.
And this was in the winter. Somehow it was in the winter because,
Okay, the winter.
okay, I am this time now, this wasn't this time, this may have been just before this time. Because it didn't work the time I'm going to explain now. 2 females dragged me up and put me against that barn. Okay, I am naked. All right, and they got buckets full of water, and they sluiced it on me up there standing against that goddamn barn to cure me from my problem.
Did it work?
That's what I say. I think this one was the next because the first one didn't work. And after that, I'll be damned.
Well, you want to remember
I
that I
should.
wasn't there.
I am going to absolve you of everything. I would blame it on the relative readily. And mother has passed away. So
A mother what?
our mother has passed away. Has now. I can't blame her anymore. She's
Oh.
gone. Okay?
The heck, you can't blame her.
Well, I can, but after the fact.
Well, anyway,
I know who had my arms.
I know that I was very, very sick,
Yeah.
and Mother sat up all night.
Okay.
Hold on. And Aunt Joan Raleigh came along from, Seattle, Renton area. And I was really sick. And this is before Mother got sick in the doctor sent her to the hospital.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, she sat up all night. But when Aunt Joan Raleigh got there, why, she said, well, Aunt Joe said, why don't I come back with them for a while? And so I did.
Yeah. Well, let's say. Yeah.
I went back in
winter
the
or
fall,
summer
and I
we're
didn't
gonna
come
do-
back until January.
Is that what Lowe's
right
had?
there.
You
First
know
battery,
what
first
happened in the,
And then
between the
I'll
time
come back
that I
tonight
went over
and get
there and I came back with a bunch of little
Because that way I don't
siblings
want to interrupt it.
that materialized over there in January. It was January when
Okay.
Raleigh brought us back.
Lawrence, what's your version?
Us, you said. How did I get there?
You know, I think Raleigh went over and brought you guys back because they were going to move over.
That's
But I
right.
went over.
But I thought you and I went together.
No.
Okay, you went first,
Yeah.
and then he came and got me?
Not only you,
No.
but Mike.
No.
Uh,
Did you go too?
was Peter also?
Just
Just the two
There,
of you?
yeah, there was only two of us.
Sorry.
I thought it was you, but it was Mike. Okay, you were already there. Okay, let me tell you about that trip that we took, because Mike never remembered it.
Going or coming back?
Going over to his place.
So let me offer a suggestion. Let's hold on that. Okay, we're rolling.
All right, let me tell you about that trip. Mike and I, in Raleigh, in a four-cylinder engine Plymouth coupe. We were all three sitting in the front seat, and instead of nice green antifreeze in his car, he had alcohol.
Real alcohol?
Real alcohol and water, and man, was that making me sick. How about you? Anyway, we got about halfway over there.
We'll see you guys a little later.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
And just let this run.
All right.
See if it's going.
Anyway, about halfway over there, out on the prairie somewhere, on the highway, the top of one of the pistons busted off. So he pulls into, I guess it was like a service station area there, and he always carried his tools with him. Took the pan off, the head off after he drained the alcohol out and kept it. And he took the rod out and the piston out, and he stuffed a big rag in the hole. And he reassembled the engine, and we had 3 cylinders, poured the alcohol back in the radiator, and away we went.
That's where you got the idea.
Yeah,
Tell them, that's where
you
you
did
got
the same thing with his little Chevy.
Well, anyway, it worked because we made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we could only go 35 miles an hour.
Well, yeah. But anyway, the trip made me so sick with that alcohol,
Give me a hug. We
I
gotta
about
go.
threw up.
All right, we'll see you.
Going Raleigh, wasn't he a drinker?
Must have been a cheap grade of Jim Beam.
No, he wasn't a drinker. Not that I know of.
Okay.
But anyway, Robbie's,
Didn't he get sick?
who?
Didn't Raleigh get sick?
Must have been
No.
cheap vodka.
Not that I know
Raleigh
of.
wasn't a drinker?
By the way, was he?
I don't think
He
so.
I
always
think so.
smoked. Was he smoking?
He smoked.
It's a wonder he didn't set you guys afire.
It was all the fumes we were smelling.
Well, the fumes could start off.
But anyway,
We need to date this. What time of year was it and where were you going?
oh, time of the year, it was not winter.
Not winter, just.
It could have been fall because he was underneath the car and there wasn't any snow on the ground or anything.
Well,
Where did you go?
I remember
We went over to
from Van
Seattle.
Leuven.
Oh, we went to Seattle.
She was already there.
Okay.
See, they took me, I think it was in October,
It could have been.
that I went with Aunt Joe and Raleigh
It
back
wasn't
over.
long after that that we went.
I
Okay.
know.
You and Jody were over there, Rennie and us.
Well,
Paul
Mike
and
was
myself.
Mike was with
over
him.
there.
Yeah, but you and I and Rennie were left where?
At
Yeah.
Van Leuven's
At
with
Van-
Daddy.
Yeah, but this is the time, Dad worked at a place that made coffins, not coffins, but
Yeah.
vaults, concrete vaults
yeah.
to bury people in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is when Mom went to the hospital.
Well, she didn't go right away. She after I left.
Okay, but it wasn't long after.
I know, because I kept getting letters
Yeah,
and over there. But I also over there, one of Aunt Joe's friends needed some help to plant some cabbage or kohlrabi or something like that. So then I would go and help her. So, but anyway, then we found a house for rent. It was called the, I was going to say Mulberry, but I don't think it was a Mulberry. But anyway, it was a nice looking house. I think it was $30 or $50 a month. And so then, of course, they were going to move over. So that's how come they sent you guys.
but they never moved over.
No,
No?
no, that's when Mother According to Dr. Robert L. Rochford, Paul's doctor, said Mother had menopausal hysteria because she was writing letters to me saying that she did this and her blood swung that way, and she did that and her blood swung the other way. So anyway, he wrote me and said, no, I think she needs to go to the hospital for a little while. So anyway, then, but she got mad at one of you guys that were left and threw a big cup. Who did she throw that big heavy like they used to have these big mugs in the restaurants,
Yeah.
big heavy duty
Yeah.
mugs.
Yeah.
Which kid did
It
she
was
throw
small
it at?
because she needed target practice, and that's the guy right there.
She wouldn't have thrown it at you.
Why
I know,
not?
I was a nice fellow at that time.
Yeah.
You didn't have that long blonde hair, she didn't give a damn
But
about
she
you
did
anymore.
get me later with a ball peen hammer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but
I almost made it to the door though, before she
Okay.
got me 12 feet
But
away.
anyway, that is where John had an appendicitis attack. Brother John had an appendicitis attack. And then he had to be taken to the hospital. So Mother was there, and that happened. She was still there. So with all of this coming down, and she didn't know where I was. I was over there with Aunt Joe.
Yeah.
But I've always been a person that Mother leaned on.
I know, absolutely.
And so, anyway, it forced her into menopausal hysteria. And so then when she went to the hospital, why then, and Aunt Jo had a couple of extra kids, plus me, plus her own two, she decided, wait a minute. I think these kids, and they're not coming over because Mother has been sent to the hospital, so I think these kids ought to go back over there.
When we say sent to the hospital, let's clarify that. It was a mental institution.
Yes, for the menopausal hysteria.
In Seattle.
Washington,
No.
Spokane.
Spokane was in Spokane.
Medical Lake,
Yeah, medical
from
lake.
Spokane.
Yes, I'm familiar with it, yes.
Because
Yeah,
when
he
we
was
came
Spokane.
back, we went and visited her there. Remember?
Pardon me?
After we came back to Spokane, you, Mike, and I, we went, Dad, went to and visited her there.
Yeah.
I think Medical Lake is still there.
So what would you say the length of time that she was probably there? 6 months?
Well, we were up on that, as you call it, on the prairie place.
Yeah,
When Mother could come home
yeah,
and wanted to go back and see Grandma.
yeah.
When did when you talked about October when you went
When
towards Seattle?
Aunt Jo,
When did you come back?
Oh, we
January.
spent- yeah, it was,
I'm sure it was January.
Okay, it was in
Oh,
January. You came back to what? To Seattle? Or
No,
to
no, came back to Van Leuven's, where you guys.
it was about 4 months we were over there.
Okay,
uh,
so you came back in the middle
We
of
went to school over there in Seattle.
I don't remember going to school. All I remember about Seattle was being so sick in bed with a high fever that I couldn't think straight, couldn't eat anything. I just lay there and thought I was going to die.
Yeah, say that again. Where do you remember?
At Joe and Raleigh's place over in Seattle.
Oh,
when I was
that-
so sick.
That was at Renton.
I don't know where it was, Renton, yeah,
Renton.
wherever they were, where he had his garage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was so sick in there, just about like I was down on the chicken farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, I keep telling
And what's
you, you wonder about your heart murmur right there.
that? It's
But we're not gonna talk about that.
doctors have asked me, have you ever had what causes it? Some fever. What's it called?
Rheumatic?
Rheumatic fever.
Oh, no, you never had that. You had infection.
Oh,
No doubt.
tonsillitis?
Oh, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Oh, yeah.
But I was out of it.
Oh, he was, I can remember him, when he was just a little kid. Somebody took my red wagon, and all of us, we never had a red wagon. So we would laugh. What
I
for?
was trying to get one.
And then another time,
Faking it, man.
another time,
That's one way to do it.
another time when you were out of your head, it was, oh, there's an Indian on that rock, and he's going to get me. You know, to us kids, we didn't realize how sick you were. You could have up and died, but it was really funny what the crazy dreams you were having.
When did you get those tonsils out?
At,
When he was 12 and I was 16, and we lived in Bertha Roper's house.
in Spokane.
Yeah, and the outskirts.
Well, it was a suburb of Spokane. Dad worked at the aluminum factory.
Have you
Yeah.
had your appendix out?
Yeah.
Had what?
I've had everything out.
No appendix? No appendix?
I'm a
I had my
robot.
tonsils out, but
You're
not
the one
my
that can't handle
adenoids.
it.
I still have my,
I've had everything out. I'm a robot.
I still have my tonsils
You still
too,
got
but
your-
I used to have tonsillitis all
Oh,
the time.
terrible. How did you resolve the issue?
Just gave up.
Your tonsils gave up. Yeah, no, I got mine out when I was 32.
Anyway, we've got you guys
Okay,
there, but let's talk about maybe some of the adventures that we had up in, like where Daddy worked in the mine, and
All right.
and we, first of all, Aunt Joe and Raleigh was up there, and they lived in a motel, the hotel.
For a while.
Turk.
Yeah.
Turk.
you guys, if you don't mind, if we're being recorded, put a time or a date on it.
Yeah.
Like 1938, 1942, 1940. Just
Yeah.
sometime to put it in context. Otherwise, people are not going to
You
know.
gotta say how, you're right, you gotta say how old a kid is.
Well,
A
not
kid
only that, but I mean, put it in context, because people are not going to be able to reference how old you were immediately.
Well,
Well, in Turk, that was during World War II.
it was during World War II when we were in Bertha Roper's house, because
Well,
Daddy was making, first he
As
was,
men, you have to remember, 1941 to 1945 was World War II.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
you got time to do some good things.
Yeah, but kids they grow up fast in about 4 years.
Yeah, and that was Turk, Washington.
Yes.
Turk, Washington, an old ghost mining town, and it was owned by Mr. Kirkland, which lived up on the little bench of the land above the town, and it had a hotel, it had a post office on the other side of the road, and it had down on the end of the street was his daughter's house.
And right next to us was the old dance hall.
That's right. And then there was also a couple other, and then down, as you came into the little town was the big, stable, what do you keep horses in?
Yeah,
Barn,
stable.
Big barn,
Stable,
right,
stable, the mining horses.
And then as you come into town too, on the other side of the road from us, there was also a family living down there. Remember that?
Did you guys go, when you
Yeah,
had some
yeah.
spare time, did you go
Yeah.
rooting around, snooping around the town? Was it pretty well
Are
empty?
you kidding? We knew every inch of that town.
That's
Well,
what you
just
need.
wait a minute, we're gonna get to that.
Good.
But, Mr. Kirkland's son, Fred, came up and stayed in the sister's house. But what family do you remember?
I'm trying to think of the name. And it won't come to me, but it was a man, a woman, and at least one child.
What was it? The kid?
What was it? One or the other.
Well,
You got a choice.
I think it was a boy. I'm not sure they rode the school bus with us from
Had two
town.
legs.
I didn't stay there
We
long.
don't
Because when,
No, they were there when we moved there, and they were there when we left.
I don't remember them at all.
Well, I do, because there was an incident that happened there, and Dad and Mom both thought that they had stolen something, not from us, but from someone else, or the mine maybe or something.
Well, we were there
and
a
they
couple of-
accused them of doing it.
Oh, we were there a couple of years, basically. And but anyway, we were there.
I don't think we was ever in a place a couple of years, Jody.
Of course we were. We were in the post office. We were in the post
It
office.
didn't last long. The horse went through the floor and we moved out.
Well, but that's after you tried to kiss the horse. You did kiss it.
Whoa! Wait a minute. And you set that horse through the floor? Damn, that must have been good.
Yeah.
Animal abuse.
No, that was Mom's bread baking. You could smell that bread baking, and the horse just wandered in there going to get some of that good stuff.
Well, it was a hot summer, and we had all gone around to the back of that other building
Right.
where there was a bunch of raspberries back in there, and we were all sitting in the shade. And the farmers had turned loose their horses they weren't using, and was that Conchita that went through the floor?
I don't remember its name.
Oh, Conchita.
Well, she was, I really liked her. She was a red sorrel and had a white face, and Lawrence, for some reason, thought he liked her or something, but she was in the middle of the road and the other horses were around, and we were trusting kids. They could have kicked her brains out. But anyway, went up and he kissed her right on the neck. And you know, did she like that? No. She turns around at him with her teeth and she chases him into the post office,
Lawrence.
which was our house. We lived in the post office.
Boy, what a rejection that was.
I was never good with females.
So,
Oh,
but
I was thinking all the wrong things.
But then don't remember what, you remember what, as Lawrence said, we looked everywhere, even in that nice big stable down below at the end of the street, but the dance hall was right next to us.
Right.
Really
It
close.
was all boarded
We
up.
had a red chicken called Phoebe, and she went under the post office, but you go around the back, you guys opened the window somehow.
Oh, we broke into it, yeah.
No, he opened it. Did he have the window locked?
Same thing.
Same thing.
If it wasn't locked, you didn't break in. But
I
anyway,
think the police
It-
think differently.
it had an organ in there. Was that an organ or a piano?
It was an
Irene
organ.
would know.
It was an
Oh,
organ.
man.
And
Abandoned.
Yeah.
Irene would play on it. Well, guess who heard it? Mr. Kirkland up on the hill. By the
owner.
way, Mother would make him egg custards and have one of us kids take the egg custard in that heavy duty that she hit through and hit one kid because he wasn't minding, was running out the door.
What
But anyway,
kid? You
not,
mean one
not-
kid? That one?
No, not him. No, not him.
Which? Give me another one.
I don't know, maybe John.
Could have been. Oh, John isn't here, so it's a good one. Lay it off on him.
John took after Mother quite a lot. I think there was a clash of wills there. But anyway, Mr. Kirkland heard this music.
Yeah.
And of course, we were I was in the 7th and 8th grade up there.
What, did he think it was a ghost?
No.
Did he come down?
Well, he thought it was some lady singer that had been there.
Died. Come back.
So anyway, he must have come down while we were inside. And there was the bar, and there was you remember,
Yeah.
tables and the poker players.
It was a pretty dance hall.
They just
Gambling
walked away.
place, whatever.
And,
The saloon, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
and he came down, and Irene heard him say, Lorena, you've come back. And guess what kind of traffic went out that back window.
Lorena, yes.
So,
Please, Lorena, come back. I can see them over out the window.
Well, we could outrun him.
he was an old man with a long beard down here, but he was kind to us. So, but then from there, Lucy Griffin,
Glidden.
I always want to say
Glidden. Glidden.
like paint.
Yeah.
Glidden was a lady from Kentucky that lived, how far would you say? Now, I would say, what, she was as far,
How far off the road?
no, on her own, after you crossed the creek and went that way,
Yeah. How far?
a half a mile.
Oh, at least.
So, and she had a really nice garden, big radishes and things.
And how did you find this about?
She lived there all by herself out in the
Yeah.
mountains.
Yes, but how did we come by the exact size of a radish?
Because I pulled a bunch of them. She said, well, here, you guys, okay,
Oh.
first it was
Oh,
Dad,
she was
and,
very nice.
Dad and Mother, come on, help me move a little bit.
She had a nest of bees in the wall of her house, honeybees.
Yeah.
And I don't know, did somebody try to collect that honey?
Well, I don't know, but Dad and Mother and myself,
I was over there.
probably you. Oh, but you, wait a minute. You, because you were the littlest. I had to take care of you. So, but I went with them, the two of them. I gotta stretch out my leg. And probably you. And over. And she said, well, you might as well have some dinner with me. Well, she said, why don't you go out and get a few radishes? Well, gee, they look so good. I kept going to talk about 6 or 8 radishes. She said, oh. So then guess what? Pretty soon here comes all the rest of the tribe. They were supposed to stay home, but they did not stay home. They came along.
Oh, he was.
You said you guys saw a mountain lion at the side of the road, but there was such a group of you that it didn't try to catch one of you. Do you remember that?
No,
Well, you.
I can't think of a better excuse than showing up on the doorstep, smelling food, and no food in our gut.
You know,
Oh yeah, there's a mountain lion right down there. He was going to get us, but we're here.
But
And
you
we're
know,
hungry.
you know something. You know, Daddy was working for John Slate in the silver mine. That's the reason we moved up there, and one of the reasons. And so anyway, later on, after we had gone, why? Mother got a letter from Lucy that John Slate and she, because Mother suggested it to him. Well, she is a pretty good cook, and you have a radio. So don't you think that you two are up there and you ought to share the radio and get the news? So evidently he would come over and eat with her, and they would listen to the radio. So that turned out whatever.
Most exciting thing to happen in that little town in quite a while, huh? They come over to listen to the freaking radio.
But anyway, from there, we moved. Now, Aunt Jo and Raleigh, in the first place, the reason we ever went up there is because Raleigh, I don't know what Raleigh was doing up there. He was always a mechanic. But they were living in the hotel. You remember the hotel?
yeah.
A 2-storied hotel. There was another hotel.
It sounds like the people just walked away. Is
They
that a
did.
true statement or not?
It
Just
was a-
abandoned.
It
Just
was a
abandoned.
ghost town,
Yeah.
mining
But
ghost
I mean,
town.
you've got a.
Well, there's other people that, you know,
They were there, but
yeah.
you know,
I don't remember the other people.
Oh, I do.
I don't.
yeah. But anyway, they left the organ and the other,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
and the cook
Ordered it
stove
up.
probably and all of this, and it's just abandoned.
We never found any whiskey bottles or anything. You know.
But anyway, then after that, why then we moved up on
Let's not leave.
Lucy.
Well, you say after that we moved up on the flats above and the house up
Where
there.
that wasn't a house, that was a hotel.
Oh, the hotel, yeah, I know it was a big house anyway. And that's where Dad tried to plow with
Yes.
the car, pulling a walking plow.
Yep. Mother was driving.
Oops.
So this was after, which finger was it?
I've healed it up.
Okay. You do remember it though.
Yep. There was a big rock in the way. A big rock. About that way.
Yeah, it's
Remember
big.
that?
Oh, yeah.
With a hole in it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
they
a drill for dynamite.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So they put a chain through it, and Mother was going to pull it with the car.
Yeah.
So anyway, they put the chain through, and I was supposed to hold that. They
You were
didn't.
supposed to hold it and pull it through as she backed up to get enough chain to tie it on. But she didn't know the gears very well.
No. She's supposed to have lessons and driven up for whatever.
Fords and
Well,
tractor.
you have to understand those old vehicles, not all of them had standard shift. Like Dodge was not standard shift. And so,
Anyway, yeah, guess what?
you almost lost a finger.
Yeah, that's true. But, well, I lived. So,
Do you recall how
but-
much of that chain pulled through that you had your hand on?
Well, I was
Was it
supposed
like
to
that
keep
much?
pulling the chain so you could
Yeah,
tie
but how
a
much
knot.
did you get a hold of? The whole handful
Uh,
of chain?
must not have got too much. I must have just.
Probably
got my
wasn't a
finger.
lot sticking through there.
Yeah.
But it
But you
wasn't a great big hole in my hand.
Instead of just finding a
But
bolt
anyway-
and putting it through one of the links, anything.
That reminds me that John Slate was a well-wisher, and he was showing Daddy about,
Dowsing.
dowsing.
Yeah.
And so, I thought, no. So I said, gee, I'd like to try that, because I didn't think it worked.
Oh, yeah.
But that worked.
Yes.
It really, I could not hold that stick, and it turned and it went down and pointed down at the ground. So, but anyway, in the hotel, there was this really pretty little goat cart. But some guy came along and got it. And then also there was a cellar with the dynamite in it. You'll have to tell about that, because I'm innocent. I knew nothing about it.
No more pulling of lead out of the shell. No. We hit the mother lode.
Well, let's just make it very brief. John was caught squeezing the TNT out of the sticks of dynamite.
A lot of fun.
Well, as it gets older, it gets soft.
Yeah. And it gets more, you can't, the older it gets, the more tendency it has to combust or,
Blow up.
It takes less to ignite it.
yes.
Anyway, it didn't happen.
No, I didn't. He saved his for later up at the other side of Payette.
Yeah, but there was a big blow up when Mother found out.
Well, you better believe it.
Yeah. You might as well have had dynamite.
I think he hid for a while.
I don't blame him.
So we moved then from there.
Well, wait a minute, we haven't got out of there yet. You know what I found in there? In they had rooms, that was for the mining men to live in. And behind us was 40 acres that belonged to a lady. So I was in the 7th or 8th grade, and there's old jeans and things, so I was looking through the pockets. You never know what's in there, a gold piece or something. And I found this letter that said, and it was a local man, if you will let this lady's daughter go, I will give you my 40 acres. That's what the note said. And I kept that for a long time. But, you know, somebody, it was in a man's genes, so he probably got it. Maybe he got the 40 acres, but maybe that was his genes.
You went through the pockets of the people in these rooms that had left.
Well, the one they'd been living there.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
No,
you
nobody.
put up an
did.
old pair of pocket, and go through the pockets?
It was.
Were you afraid of a scorpion or, in
No
our
scorp-
case, a centipede?
No scorpions up
We
there.
don't have
Oh,
scorpions
you didn't
up
have
there.
that problem.
We don't have
You don't try to
scorpions
pull
here.
that stunt in Hawaii, because that'll get you a little bit bit.
Oh, anyway, but
No kidding.
then from there, where did we go?
Well, that's a good question.
Prune picking?
Get a Peter
Pardon?
We
man.
were great about prune picking. We went to Eifert
Oh.
several times.
Oh, yeah.
The same place?
Yeah, down at Walla Walla.
A farm, a home, or what? Eifert's?
Eifert's is a big prune orchard,
Oh,
and
okay.
we would
Wait,
camp out.
Yeah,
We were itinerant farm workers.
yes. I raised my hand, Paul and I,
Uh-huh.
and Dad,
Sure.
he wanted to show us how to live.
Yeah,
And up we went to Yakima.
sure.
That,
Just as a little aside, we went to Yakima, okay? And we lived in a labor camp there. And we were low on gas and no money, and the apples hadn't started to come off yet, okay? And we needed money to get out, to borrow some money. We needed gas to get out 10 miles or what it was, to get it, borrow some money from the guy, you know, a little gratuity in order to get us to where we will pick his apples, you know. No money. What are we gonna do? Well, I had been a hoarder all my life, and I just happened to have an 1852 half dollar.
you did.
Yes, and I said, I want this back. Okay? And they promptly put the damn thing in and took 50 cents worth of gas, and we drove out there, and I never saw my 1852 half dollar again, ever, and I hold two people responsible, and one of them in around.
That would have been worth a lot of money now.
But anyway, that's what I did.
Well, or maybe, did they give you any change back?
No, it was
Because-
a half a dollar. It would buy them what, a gallon and a half or 2 gallons?
Oh,
Like 12 or 14, 15 cents a gallon,
but
whatever it was.
that half dollar never went into the cash box. It went into somebody's pocket.
Probably so.
Whatever, however it happened, I didn't get it back.
So,
I have held this grudge against
Well,
ever since.
we're gonna have to rely on you
I didn't know
as to
anything
where
about
we went from Turk.
up to the
I
hotel.
plead the fifth.
No, from
Yeah, you enjoyed the ride, though.
the town.
Oh, God.
I didn't like that long
this
walk.
now
I
we're-
couldn't love it.
In-
Well, when I was in the second grade, I was in the
If
second.
I ever find 1852,
You know,
don't
it's a
half
wonder
dollar, I'm
we
gonna
ever-
give it to you.
we ever
Yeah, just
got
hang on
to
to it.
learn
Now,
that.
this would have been around,
Well, what I'm saying is, okay,
I think we went to Spokane.
in the second grade, I was in, all right, I was in Hunters, we were in Hunters,
Yeah,
for
well-
one thing, but also when I was in the second grade, we were in Wenatchee.
Yeah, I know. What I'm saying is, though, when we left Turk, I'm trying to think of the
I was
year.
in the seventh and eighth grade.
I know, that's what I mean. So let's not go back to the second grade.
Oh,
We're going
that's
forward
interesting.
now.
Okay.
Where we went next, we ended up in the suburb of Spokane where Dad was working in the aluminum factory.
Well, but that's when we lived in Booker Roper's house. And
Okay.
I was about 15.
That
but
would
I
have been
wasn't going to
44,
school. Well,
during World War II.
I wasn't going to school because somebody had to watch somebody. And Mother didn't feel well. And Irene she was going to school, and you guys were going to school, and that's where John broke his nose, swinging on 2 chairs, or a table and a chair.
What grade did
And where
Mike and
we
I
had
in?
our tonsils out. At Bertha Roper.
You were what,
Right.
12? You were 12 or 13?
Okay, but that's where we went from Turk.
I'm not positive. No. No. To Bertha Roper's, we went to the Green Fillet from,
Now I'm trying to get from Turk to somewhere.
we went from Wenatchee. Do you remember the little house across from the football practice field in Wenatchee?
Yeah.
He was in diapers.
For 12
running
years.
around, he was a toddler. Let's put it that way.
I remember.
And then Daddy came down
You're getting better.
and found, and this is World War II, because Mother had nerve enough that I would watch, you know who, and
you know who now.
Yeah, you blah, not eat.
well, they didn't like little